Welcome, everyone, to Nerdwide.com's weekly podcast titled Hero Cravings, The Multiverse, where we cover and break down all Marvel TV shows, Gotham, Black Lightning, and Krypton, episode by episode for you, the listener. As always, I'm your host, Tyler Haynes, with my good friend and co-host, Chris Rivers.
What's up, everybody?
We're back. It's a good one. I'm excited for this episode.
It's going to be good.
But before we get there, Chris, you know what we have to do.
Go for it.
Housekeeping. Don't forget to share, rate, and review this podcast on whatever podcasting service you use. If you use a certain service and we are not on it, feel free to email us at nerdwide@gmail.com and let us know so we can try and get that going. And we are officially on YouTube, so we are doing our best to upload every single one of these episodes on there. So make sure you subscribe to us at youtube.com/nerdwide. Don't forget that Chris recaps Blacklist and Blindspot at purefandom.com, and so make sure you check out his weekly recaps there. This is our 27th official episode, and I'm going to give you a recap of how this show goes down. Each week we go through all of our Multiverse TV episodes in order as they air, and we're going to bring you our thoughts and reactions to every one of those episodes. That being said, we're going to jump right into it with Black Lightning, episode 11, titled Black Jesus, the Book of Crucifixion.
Gotta love these episode titles, right?
They do really well with the real long ones.
Yeah, they do.
And makes sense throughout the episode. We started off with Black Lightning and Thunder invading a warehouse, which we thought was the warehouse for the metas who have been on ice or suspended in time. And we find out that it was actually a warehouse that had the anti-Black Lightning weapons, which makes sense because the ASA is trying to kill Black Lightning. So we see that this is what it's going to do, and this is their warehouse. We see Vice Principal Fowler very ticked off that Black Lightning and Thunder found this warehouse. She's getting a little bit blowback from the ASA as well. And so what she does is tries to set up, she sets up Jefferson Pierce to get arrested from dirty cops. She pays him some money and some green light to be falsely planted so Jefferson Pierce should get arrested. She's still very skeptical about Jeff being the Black Lightning because she's like, I've known him for years, there's no way he is. But we're still seeing that Jeff doesn't trust Gamby. We're still having this trust issue. It's very common in a lot of shows, but understandably why, because he should have told Jeff a long time ago about everything, but is what it is. And then we find out that one of the metas that was in captivity dies because they were moving them way too much, and so the meta die was not able to keep life going. Vice Principal Fowler is going to take some blowback from that, but we have not seen the blowback from that yet.
Right, and apparently on that front, they're supposed to have a certain number because they commented something along the lines, if we lose one, that's one more we've got to get.
And then I don't understand all of that.
I don't either.
But hopefully in season 2, we might get a little bit more answers. I don't think we will this season, but I've been wrong before. We see the cops come to the school where Jefferson is actually teaching a class, it looks like, and which I guess were like his elite students or his students he was trying to improve.
I think that was the mentor program.
Oh,
he
tried to recruit what's his name into.
Yeah.
While he's doing this, we hear a bunch of cop sirens, and they pull up to the school. They search Jeff's car, which is very principal looking-y. It was like an old Subaru or something. They plant the false evidence and money on it, and he gets arrested and framed for having green light in his possession, which makes sense. It's such a believable story, though, Chris. If I was a drug dealer, where could I do like the most damage as a principal of a high school? So I get why it's very believable. We see him get arrested, and he is paraded through the school. And what was really cool about this is the people he was mentoring all chained arms in front of the school so he couldn't get out. Yeah. And Jeff, it was a very touching moment between Jeff and his students. He was like, it's It's fine. We're gonna get this taken care of. Don't get more in trouble. I don't want to see another black man arrested today. And I was like, the feels on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Kudos to
Yeah.
it just proves to you that Jeff is such a good human, not just
Right.
Black Lightning, but a good human.
Well, then he also had to talk his daughters down at separate times,
Oh yeah,
right? Because Jennifer, I think, was the first one to run into him
yeah,
being let out, and she clenches her fist, and he looks at it, and he can see she's about to use her powers.
yeah. Because we know
And
that she doesn't have like much control, and like anger sets it off.
right, and he tells her, he says, "Stay calm."
Yeah,
And
I
then
need you
when
to
he
stay
gets out,
strong for your mother, is what he said.
right, yeah, and when they get outside, and he's about to be put into the police car, that's when Anissa comes up.
She was ticked off.
Yes, she was.
She even went, and
Yeah.
Jeff said, "No, no, 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 no."
Let's not go there.
Right, she was about to throw him to the sun.
Yeah.
Oh man, such a I love the writing on this show. We we get him back to the police station after he got arrested at school, and Inspector Henderson was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, what the hell is this?" Because he had no idea about it until he showed up, at the police station, and he said, "It's above your pay grade. We found out that Mr. Pierce here is the one selling drugs, and what better to do it as a principal at a school." And of course, Inspector Henderson knows Jeff. We saw it like in the very first episode. They're friends, like not the bestest of friends, but they're pretty close.
Right.
And he's like, "No, that's not right at all." And like it's instantly he knows he's being set up for something.
Mm-hmm.
And then we see this whole episode. Jeff is like getting treated like a criminal while at this police station, like in just I don't.
The cavity search.
Yeah, like he got cavity searched and everything. And this is a man who is very highly thought of in the community. And the fact that he's getting beat up and just disrespected like this is another thing to me. And I feel like that's the show was trying to show what happens behind the scenes, which they do a great job of doing that anyway. So I mean, I'm gonna have to believe him on this.
Well, and the thing is, the people in the community really reacted, for the most part, the way the kids in the school reacted.
Yeah.
And then you had a couple of the older white people that were interviewed on the news who thought, "Yeah, I could believe it."
Yeah,
like,
she's even said one of the ladies said on there, "Black Jesus, here's his Black Jesus, all right. That's what he gets for having that name," or something like that. And I'm like, come on,
something like that. It's just like
it shows you I mean, it reflects our society. I know this is a TV show, and it kind of does it anyways, but it really does a good job of doing it, especially what's going on right now in the world.
Yeah.
So how are we going to do this? We. Of course, Lynn goes up to Henderson, and like one of the best quotes of this episode was, because Henderson's told Lynn, he says, "Do you trust me?" And she says, "No, but I know Jeff does, and that means the world." And she goes, "And that means I do too," or something like that.
Right.
I just thought it was a good, strong quote from her, from a character from a character I don't hold in very high regards for.
Well, yeah, I'm just not sold on her. I mean, she spent so much time early on being wishy-washy. Like it was fine for him to use his powers as long as it helped their daughters, but otherwise don't do it. And it's like, there are other people out there that need help.
Yeah.
And it seems like she's been very, very slow to come around. I think she's really progressed nicely, but she's still not quite there. You still get the sense that she would shut this down if she could.
Yeah. We see that Gamby and Anissa are trying to free Jeff, and not at first, because Anissa, what she wanted to do was just barge in as Thunder and take him out, but that's going to prove the ASA's point that he's Black Lightning. So what they do was Gamby sets up a projector monitor on Anissa's hip. So when she goes out and parades through the streets, and gets a bunch of attention from the media and from all the people out on the streets. And then Gamby was very proud of this moment, but he hotwired his van where he could do it with a remote control. And so Anissa, it looks like Anissa gets almost run over by it. and so she hits the projection, and it looks like Black Lightning's running with her. And of course,
Right.
that got paraded on the news and everything, and everyone's like, "Oh, he's not Black Lightning," is what the vice principal Fowler. But I thought that was a very cool scene. Like it just shows how much Gamby is very smart in the head and and very tactic oriented.
But
Um, Go ahead.
we know that the people above the vice principal, which I'm guessing is our good friend Martin Proctor.
Yeah, just
Um,
canoe last week.
it didn't convince them because
No,
they basically told her mind your own business.
right.
Play
That's not your problem.
right, play your role and let us worry about it.
I feel like that's going to cause a rift between her and the ASA
Yeah.
potentially because she's aware that Jeff's not Black Lightning now, and she's like, "This is a
Well,
good guy." Yeah, well, so we'll see how that relationship plays out.
right.
Henderson finds out about the dirty cops, which is Chief Officer Kamen, and I can never get the other officer's name, which is fine. He's not really a big character. We found out that he found them taking money from an offshore account, and somehow these officers are able to live these luxurious lives. Obviously, not enough of a police officer's commission. So he clears Jefferson's name and exposes the officer Kamen. And then at the end of this episode, we see Henderson getting a promotion to Deputy Chief Henderson. And then in the same interview, or the same press conference, he promises to start a new police force free of corruption that Freeland has never seen, which makes me extremely excited, and I can't wait.
Also makes me nervous for him, you know.
Yeah, because he's now a target.
Yeah.
So we'll see how far this works out for him. I'm hoping he doesn't get killed in the next couple episodes. And then this week we saw the ending of the Pierce family at a dinner table. And Gaby comes over for dinner, and they all gather around the table, hold hands, stand up, and pray like a good like a good more normal American family does. And I feel like that added a little bit more dynamic to the show, and that we're starting to get the rift that was caused by Gamby's actions to be kind of sewn back up for him and Jeff, which I hope it is because I like the relationship. But
So what you're saying is in that scene we got a little bit of eat, pray, love.
way to be there, Chris. No, so this episode ended, but it brought a question to me because during this episode, Henderson goes to Jeff in this jail cell, and he says, "Is there anything you need to tell me that's why are you getting framed for this?" And for a second there, I thought he was going to tell him he's Black Lightning, but my
Hmm.
question to you, he ultimately didn't. My question to you, Chris, don't you think it's time for Henderson to know about it, or like be included in this loop? Especially like we,
Uh,
I feel like it is, but I don't know. That's might be a personal thing.
I think you can make the argument both ways. I think the reason he's not is it would probably put him in more danger knowing who Black Lightning is. Right now, no one really knows for sure that he even knows Black Lightning.
Right.
Um, but I think on the other hand, you can make the argument that because his life is in danger now, if he's going to die because of something he's involved with like this, he at least deserves to know the truth,
Yeah.
you know?
That's
So
that's how I feel too.
it's,
It's I don't know. I hate when people get good friends like that and they're in the dark. Um, for example, you could give season one of Arrow with Tommy Merlin and Oliver Queen and the whole Arrow thing. But
yeah.
that's a different show. Go over there. We're not talking about those guys here. Early numbers this week: 0.5 rating, which is pretty steady. 1.50 million viewers, which is actually down 0.05. And I know we said it, I think it was last week or the week before. But Chris, I think this is Black Lightning's niche numbers. We found it.
Yeah. Yeah. It looks like the overnights are going to settle in around a half a point and 1.5 million. That's about where they've been the last 5 weeks now,
Yeah,
I believe. So yeah,
plateauing
that
off.
it's good to know where it's going to settle
Yeah.
because now you don't have to wonder, hey, is it going to keep dropping? Is it going to keep dropping? We
Well,
found that
that
point.
and last week we talked about we had no idea if it was going to be renewed, and then 3 or 4 days later after we recorded that episode, it gets renewed. But you could check that out
Right.
at our YouTube channel or your podcasting service, Hero Craving Special number 3. So we'll talk about all that
And
there.
and of course on YouTube, it's going to be there at youtube.com/slash nerdwide. So
There it is. Look at the plug.
yeah, look at that.
Next week's episode is titled "The Resurrection and the Light: The Book of Pain," uh,
Wow.
which, of course,
I
we
don't
have
think that
2 episodes
title's
left.
long enough.
No. We can add more.
Yeah.
And Tobias Whale returns next episode. I did see the preview for this one, and Lala does as well. So
It's been what, 3 or 4 episodes without Tobias?
yeah, and I'm pretty sure it's because of his sister's death.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it all plays out. Don't forget, season finale is 2 weeks away. That means we have 2 episodes left of season 1, and I'm so glad that it is coming back for season 2. Well, that brings us down to our next show, Krypton, episode 3, The Rankless Initiative. We get we found that the object that Adam and Kim found was a probe to see if Brainiac wanted to collect the world. He sends these probes out to see if it's worth his time to conquer and to collect and put in his little jars that he does. So Adam and Seg bring it back to the Fortress of Solitude. They scan it with Val. They find out that it is empty. So,
Hmm.
and the Sentry is what they call the probe, needs to find a host so it relays all the information to Brainiac. We found out that the Sentry was found by a woman 4 days earlier to all these events. Her name was Rom. Now, if you remember, Chris, she was the same woman from last episode who delivered the house sigil to Seg. It was
Right.
her and her daughter, the Rankless.
Right.
And she
Yeah.
was out just trying to make some money and out scavenging, I think was what the role was of this
Yeah.
of her particular job. We found out the Rankless Initiative. It is a mission to find and kill Black Zero and his sympathizers on behalf of the Voice of Rao's order. He obviously has Black Zero has attempted to kill Rao, or the Voice of Rao, and he's not having that. So let's go down and go by section of the Rankless and find out who his sympathizers are and find Black Zero. Of course, if you can imagine, that did not happen.
I am just I'm not too thrilled with the Black Zero storyline
Yeah, I feel like it's
because
a
I
story within a story, but I just don't feel like it makes much sense here.
well, I'd like to get some semblance of the guy,
Yeah,
right?
all we have is a
Like,
name.
yeah, we haven't seen anything from him. We don't even know if it's a him,
Yeah, could be a she.
and it's just it's very odd because they're searching for this person. It's like I haven't really seen much that if anything, that the person's responsible for.
Yeah,
We just hear that it's someone
maybe it's just a movement. Maybe it's
who's
not even a
working,
name.
but they're looking for a single person.
Yeah,
So I, it's very very strange. Also, before we go much further, the Brainiac aspect, I would love for them to explain in further detail like what he's really looking for. Obviously, Adam Strange would know,
yeah.
I would think,
Well, I
what
think he's
quali-
he's
what
just trying.
qualifies a world
Yeah,
for being worthy.
yeah, and I think which it's kind of confusing to me as well because I'm pretty sure the whole aspect of Brainiac trying to collect Krypton is to prevent Superman's birth.
Yeah, and I mean I get it with Krypton, but he's obviously collected a ton of other
Oh yeah,
worlds, and I mean, why does he choose these places? It's not always to stop a superhero.
he's a
I mean, if
collector,
you
Chris. Why do people collect stamps?
but they have certain stamps they like for certain reasons.
Oh man. So this Rankless initiative is about to get started off. We see some disagreement between Lyda and her mother. because she believes that the majority of these people are innocent, and it's just these other people we have that are not. Same thing if you wanted to relate it to our time and our time now, the Muslim community. Not all of them are radical ISIS members, but it's exactly what they're doing. We as Americans, well, not we, the majority of Americans judge Muslims based on them being Muslim and the radical Islamics, and that's exactly what the ranked members and the guilds are exactly doing to these rankless. They said, well, one of them's got to be behind
Yeah.
them, so let's
They're
uproot everybody.
they're stereotyping.
Yeah, it's exactly what it is. But she had a nice little touching speech to her crew because she is commander now of her own group. Got a little bit of pushback from this one lady in particular, but we'll get there. We we found out that Rom is the one who took this device from out in the Icelands or whatever it's called, wastelands.
Hmm.
So Adam goes to the black market dealer and he finds it. But first, before he steals the probe, he gets offered something, Chris. And I wonder if did you catch this Easter egg as well?
I did, yeah,
The Daxamite hunting blade,
yeah,
which
yeah.
if
That was pretty cool.
yeah, if you listen to our Arrowverse shows or watch Supergirl, her love on the show is from as a Daxamite, which is a world over from Krypton, which is very weird to me because the all of Krypton is like there's no other life outside of this
Right.
planet. So, but whatever. It was a nice Easter egg, regardless.
It
Um,
was, but like you said, what the heck, man? They're denying that there's life outside of that planet, but here they have a hunting blade from
yeah, from a different
someone
world.
from outside the planet.
Yes. I understand what they were trying to do, but get a little bit tighter, sci-fi. So Adam finds the sentry on the black market dealer's thing. He distracts him for a minute and starts running off. He takes the device. We found out that the sentry is empty, so we had to find out where the sentry is and who is infecting. Uh, Meanwhile, the rankless initiative is going on. Seg breaks rank and goes up to Lyda and blames her for this initiative. But in all reality, she's there and she's trying to contain her team and she's trying to contain the problem because she does love Seg. And she's like, not all rankless are bad. She's a very good person. Um,
Yeah.
and then we see I love seeing Adam Warlock, not Adam Strange and Val L together in the Fortress of
Hmm.
Solitude, just because their
Yeah.
quips are just so funny with each other. We we got a nice little touch to Adam's backstory and why Adam is still on Krypton. His Zeta beam device is broken, and he pulls it out of his pocket. He tells Bella, he goes, "Hey, is there any way we could fix this?" And that's why we haven't seen him go off planet or go back and forth.
Well,
Um,
I wondered because in the pilot, he has, I didn't know if he was having an issue with it or what, because he made the comment at one point in the pilot, I'm almost out of time,
right.
and he disappeared. So it was like he could only be there for so long.
Yeah.
So I didn't know if that was his
From
device was.
from like what I understand, the device is only it's on a time. It's like on a time schedule, but uh, I guess it's broken now, so he can't use it. I don't know if it got damaged somehow, but I don't know. I'm just glad he's on the show still. I
Yeah.
like his dynamic, especially since he knows Seg's grandson and the whole reason we're
Hmm.
doing all this.
Right.
But the Century did find its host, and if you very smart with TV shows, obviously it's Rome or Rom, however they pronounce her name as well, and she is Brainiac's little Century. We we see her go full crazy and kill some of the members of the military guild, and Koldal starts in Koldal, which is the person from Lyta's division of military, um, we saw while Lyta was briefing her team that she could potentially be a problem, which is the way she was looking at Lyta. We didn't really see much of know anything about her until this episode, and we see her interrogating a rankless because she's getting a little trigger happy. She's seeing her teammates dead, and she's getting a little, I want to say like scared, but she's also trigger happy. Um, and so she interrogates a rankless who are all of these people are in handcuffs, uprooted out of their homes and being relocated somewhere else, which was, anyways. So Koldal is actually she interrogates a rankless and then killed another one because the rankless was like, this isn't right. Another one was like, this isn't right. What are you doing? And she says, get back in line. And he kept walking. So she shoots him and kills him. But before we get there, Cole Da is actually played by the one and only Andrea Vasilio. Forgive me, Andrea, if I am pronouncing your name wrong. Now, Chris, the reason I star her
I
in...
like
Do what?
I like how you know she's the one and only, but you can't say her last
I
name
you
right.
know what? I don't know names. Names are a bad thing. But what what's very interesting to me for this character is she's in a lot of DCEU shows. I researched her because she just looked kind of familiar to me, and here's why. She was in the Wonder Woman movie as an Amazonian warrior. She was in Justice League for stunts. She's obviously in Krypton as Cole Daw. She was in The Dark Knight Rises as Bruce Wayne's first girlfriend in Florence. She's been in a lot of things. Like, she just,
Huh.
like, it's crazy, right? And now here she is in Krypton as a character. Um,
Wow.
I just thought that was very interesting that they actually did that, and that's because David Goyer, who is I forget he's the I don't know he's not writer. I think he's an executive producer. He's also executive producer for a lot of those movies, and apparently he liked her enough to have her as like a sub character. So I thought that
Yeah.
was pretty cool. And then Lyta hears about this and she arrests Cole for unlawful murder and all that hoopla. But we see the Sentry. It's at the little central communications. It is hacking Krypton's communications device. Seg uses an EMP device, but not before the Sentry sends all the information to Brainiac. We don't know if Rom is dead. We do know that the Sentry part of her was killed, but we don't know if it actually kills the host because the Sentry acts like a parasite. But Brainiac got the information and he says, "Oh, Krypton, I am so ready to collect you." And the episode ends.
He looks creepy, man. Whoever they
I
have.
love it.
Do you have the cast list pulled up?
Yeah, it's Blake Ritson is
Okay.
who plays
They
it.
do a great job with the makeup and everything on him, and
Yeah,
yeah, he
he's
looks
not in not a lot of big things. He's been in some. He's done a lot of voice acting, so which would make sense because he is more so a voice actor than an actor for that because it's all CGI.
right.
Chris, I'm still loving Krypton. I love every direction they're going with it.
Yeah, like I said before, if they would tip their hand a little more as to what Black Zero is, because right now I just don't care.
Yeah,
You know, I don't have any idea of what that character is. If it is a character, uh, I have no reason to care about it at this point.
well, how I see it playing out is Black Zero's members contact Seg and want him to join. I'm almost like 100% positive that's how that's going to play out, but I guess we'll see. That's the only thing I get to see how they're going to relate it. You know, uh, early numbers for this show: 0.3 rating, which is pretty steady. 0.95 million viewers, which is down 0.12 from last week's. And the next week's episode is titled "The Word of Rao." Um,
I
which I'm
didn't
assuming
see any
I didn't either.
previews.
I'm assuming that's the
Um,
Bible.
Here's the just to throw this back to the Arrowverse for a minute. This episode slightly in terms of it tied in rating and it was slightly more viewers than Arrow.
Mm. This isn't a network show.
Yeah.
Mm. 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 But of course, you'll
And
have to
it's
listen to Hero Cravings episode 27 of Arrowverse to understand what we are talking about here with how we're relating to it, because Arrow is in a not a good spot right now, ratings and viewing wise.
no, not at all.
So, next show we got is Gotham Season 4, Episode 17, titled Mandatory Brunch Lunch. Of course, how we do Gotham is we split up between heroes and villains, and if they tie in together, we hit what the small parts first, and go into the big ones. So this one, it was a very, 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 very villain-esque episode. Had a lot of questions answered that I had at least. Before we get there, we had some heroes. Bruce goes to St. Ignatius School by himself to try and take on Jerome. Last episode he's feeling guilty because he should have stopped Jerome back in the past, but he didn't. We found out that Jerome is actually looking for a kid by the name of Xander Wilde. He graduated a couple years earlier before this whole introduction to the character. We see that Tetch has brainwashed this head, what do they call that? Head administrator?
Headmaster.
Headmaster, thank you. That's exactly what I was going for.
Yeah.
And of course, he blows himself up regardless of Bruce's and Captain Gordon's interventions, which I thought was a very cool scene regardless.
Bruce was on the right track there.
Yeah.
He noticed the clock, but it was the wrong one.
Yeah. Are you talking about Gordon?
So, no, well, Bruce pointed it out. Remember, he said, I forget exactly what the term, how he got Gordon's attention to it, but he got Gordon to notice that it was it was something to do with the clock.
Right.
So Gordon shoots the clock, but then they realize it's the pocket watch.
Yeah.
That the guy has on that's actually keeping him hypnotized.
And then after this explosion, we see Gordon and Bruce having a somewhat interaction with Alfred, which this is the first time we've seen Sean Pertwee, who plays Alfred, in I want to say like 2 or 3 episodes. It's been a while since we've seen Alfred. And it was good seeing him, anyways.
And there was no discussion about where he's been.
Yeah, like and he said, Gordon asked Bruce, he said, do you know where, well, he asked Alfred, he said, do you know where he's been? And that he was out here doing that? He goes, actually, yes, I do. And he said, all right, Master Bruce, he goes, let's get out of here, or something, generic terms. We come back to Bruce Manor with Alfred, Captain Gordon and Bullock, because they want to. No. I'm getting ahead of myself. Excuse me. We see Harvey and Bullock. That's the same thing. Harvey tells Bullock. Oh my lord. Ignore me. My notes were a little scrambled here. We see Captain Gordon and Harvey go to the site where this Xander Wilde is supposed to work, but Jerome is already there before our team gets there, and they get a little shootout here. And I thought it was a very cool callback to the Joker here, because Bullock yells to him. He said, "Give it up, clown boy."
Yeah, that was,
which is obviously a Joker somewhat reference,
right.
But that is pretty much it for like our heroes aspect. Like, that's just heroes. That's actually all we see of Bruce this whole episode.
Yeah, we didn't get any more Bruce. We didn't get any Barbara or Selena or Tabitha.
No. Which was very weird, because they're trying to set up the League of Assassins last episode, and they kind of jump around, which is it's classic Gotham fashion. You're going to get one centric story one time and then another one the next episode. I mean, it's just their MO.
Yeah, and considering what goes on in the villain side of things this episode, they can be forgiven.
Yeah, very much so. The episode with we get a new organization that Jerome calls the Legion of Horribles. We see the Penguin's house again, and we are inside of it, but we see some familiar faces we haven't seen in a minute. We see Firefly, which we haven't seen in a while. We see Mr. Freeze, but we've seen him, it was last episode or 2 episodes ago. and we see
Yeah.
Penguin, Tetch, and Jerome all around the table, and they are the Legion of Horribles. But what they're wanting to do, Jerome is, we're going to take over the criminal underworld. He says, but I want to paint the town mad. Which is, again, very Joker MO. We see the Riddler again, and he has his own club called the Riddle Factory. And he has his iconic question mark logo in neon behind him, which is very, very, very iconic to the Riddler.
Right.
So he has a little own the Riddle Factory is like a game show to an extent. A contestant gets asked a riddle. If he solves it, he asks the Riddler a riddle, and if he can stump him, he gets some odd $100,000. If he doesn't, though, if he fails all of those, they spin a wheel of misfortune, and the rest is history. You can only imagine what all that is. But we see Lee Tompkins come through. She's got a brand new haircut, a brand new outfit on, and everything. And she says, okay, I need you to shut this down. And Riddler's like, no. And so they make a bet. She says, if I win your game, you have to shut this club down. But if I lose, then, what was her? What was
She'll spin the wheel.
Yeah, she'll spin the wheel. And so, of course, the Riddler accepts it, but we will get to that shortly. So we found out that Xander Wilde is extremely, extremely, extremely cautious. We have no idea why, and we're led to believe that it's all about Jerome. So Xander Wilde has never been seen. No one knows his face. He has a proxy that he does everything through. Jerome finds out about the proxy. He goes to the proxy's house with an empty dog cage. Some of the funniest. I just love Jerome. Some of this funniest commentary happened here. She's the proxy is a female. We found out her name is Echo. She starts unpacking her groceries, and Jerome's sitting in a chair with a shotgun. And so I've been waiting for you to get home. And she said, "Oh, I've been waiting for you to actually get here." And she's confronts him. She says, "Do you not wonder about that cage sitting in there? It's an empty dog cage." She goes, "Yeah, I was actually wondering about that. Kind of random." And she said, "That's where I'm going to transport you to Xander to." And he said, "What?" And she did her little fast ninja moves and knocked him out and put him in the cage.
Yeah.
But so Harvey and Gordon, they found out where Xander Wilde lived from Bruce Wayne and actually Thomas Wayne's records. Apparently, Thomas Wayne kept notes of everything he did. And they got the address of a Xander Wilde because he engineered a Bruce Wayne a Wayne Tower. So they get the address. They go there to it. They knock on the door. They get escorted through Echo. There's cameras everywhere. Of course, we know, like we just said, Echo kidnapped Jerome and took him to Xander. So Jerome is with Xander as like in a little hole that he's being kept. But we get introduced to Xander Wilde. But Chris, here's the trippy part, and we've been theorizing this. We finally got an answer. Xander Wilde is Jerome's twin brother.
Right.
So, I knew it. And I was just happy to see Cameron Monaghan turn around and not have the crazy face on.
Right.
Of course, our boys in blue they were surprised as well. They pulled guns because they thought it was Jerome. And he's like, whoa, guys. I know what you're thinking. I'm his twin brother. My name's Jeremiah. He said he built this whole house like a maze. It took every precaution possible to hide from his brother because he said his brother was very demented and his mother, their mother tried to get him away because he saw where the path was leading.
Yeah,
Hold on to that thought, though.
He said when he built the house, he had a bunch of maze experts come in, and only one of them could find their way out, and it took him 3 days.
Yeah. And I thought that was very, very well done. But with mazes, Chris, if you just leave your right hand on the wall, you'll eventually find your way out. Ignore me. But keep the thought about the stories that Jeremiah said about Jerome, because that's going to come back later. Of course, Tetch and Scarecrow come to break Jerome out. Apparently, they knew where he lived and knew exactly where Jerome was being kept. And they break him out and they go through this maze, try to get out. And we see a Jerome and Jeremiah meeting up again. It's been several years since I've seen each other last. Um, but Jerome was talking to Jeremiah, and I loved the scene between the two. I don't know, Chris, I don't know how shows do this. They're the same actor. How do you like? I just don't get it. I don't.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense to me. But we got some great dialogue here. We
Hmm.
Jerome was like, are you still telling those stories that you've made up about me with what was it, your mom? I lit your bed on fire, or some kind of blade to your throat, or something like that. And like Jeremiah is just terrified of it. Like, so there's something going on there. I don't know
Yeah.
what it is. So,
I I'm gonna guess that whereas Jerome is openly crazy,
mm-hmm.
uh, Jeremiah is more. I don't know which clinical term it fits better. If it's sociopathic, that might be it.
Yeah.
Where they seem completely normal to the outside world, um, and they're very good at living double lives and things
Mm-hmm.
like that. But they're really certifiably insane.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that's where Jeremiah's at.
Yeah, because there's something definitely going on there because we're getting like a conflict of interest with these stories. But
Well, and he's also obviously a genius.
yeah, he's very, very, very smart. Uh, and then he said he's going to take over the city. He's going to make it all mad, and at first he's going to make Jeremiah mad first. Um, and then of course Gordon and Bullock hand him into police custody to hopefully protect Jeremiah from Jerome.
Hmm.
But this episode ended with some pretty weird twist. Of course, the Lee and the Riddler show. Lee wins by tricking the Riddler into letting Ed out, and Ed told her the answer. But that's not what's crazy is he pulls a knife. The Riddler pulls a knife on her, and she says, "You know what? Go ahead and do it." And Chris, you talked in the pre-show. You were saying like her face kind of like looked like it was she was turned on by the by
Yeah, it
the
was.
motion.
Yeah, it was a great little performance there because you can initially there's that shock, and you can just see the expression on her face kind of become a little. It gives a hint of pleasure.
Yeah.
Like it turned her on that he did this.
Well, and then that makes sense because she asked the Riddler. She says, how many? What's your record of banks broken into and robbed in one day?" He said 3. She said, "Let's make that more." And then they start making
Yeah.
out. And I was like,
She yeah,
"Oh,
she,
okay,
she said I think you can do better.
yeah." So, um, Dr. Tompkins and the Riddler are an item now. Um, Whatever. But we knew that Ed was in love with her,
Yeah.
anyways. So that makes sense. But we get a very, 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 very classic Joker item at the end, very end of the episode because we see Grundy and well, not Grundy. I can't call him Grundy now. Butch and Penguin come in to work with Jerome and to paint the town red with a lot of paint. And we looks like Jonathan Crane came up with, which is Scarecrow, came up with a toxin, which it's purple in color, and given to a businessman, makes him laugh uncontrollably, and his face gets all weird and turns like the big iconic Joker smile, and eventually kills him. Which Chris is a very iconic of Joker's laughing gas in the
Yeah,
comics,
I mean,
movies, TV shows, anything.
they even had blood start coming out of the guy's eyes.
Oh yeah, that
That
just showed like
was
he was gonna die.
yeah,
It was a very good episode this week. I love Gotham. I'm very curious and I'm very excited for next week's episode because I think that's
absolutely.
where we close out the Jerome show. So I'm curious to see where it goes. We don't have that many more episodes. That we've got 4 or 5 left. Um, Early numbers we have is 0.7 rating, which is steady, 2.53 million viewers, which is up 0.14. And next week's episode is titled "That's Entertainment." Now, Chris, these numbers, these viewerships here is what we want to. Well, that and the rating, they're the highest I think we've seen on any of our shows, if I'm not mistaken. Like even in the Arrowverse.
I believe you're right. Yeah, because I don't think anyone else is doing above a point 0.5 right
Yeah,
now. Um,
but why don't we have it
even
renewed?
I don't know, man. That's a very good question.
Help
I
us,
think
Charlie
what
Ridgely.
I think what they are waiting on is to make their other announcements. Like CW did with their shows,
Yeah.
where they just renewed almost everything, made a decision on almost everything at the same time
So you think
for, for
Fox will
for the same
compile all their
announcement.
shows and say we're doing all of these at once?
It's possible they may hold a few back for the May upfronts, but yeah, I don't think they're going to say we're renewing this and then 2 days later, oh, we're canceling that. I don't think they're going to
Yeah,
come
that
out
makes
with it that
sense.
way.
Yeah. Look at you, Chris. I love your business way of thinking. Um,
Well,
our next show is Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., episode 516, titled Inside Voices. Did you like that?
it was kind of creepy in my ear there, Tyler.
We get a little bit more hint that Daisy is in command while Coulson is away. That was his plan all along, is to be training Daisy up to be the commander of S.H.I.E.L.D. or the general of S.H.I.E.L.D. or however you want to say it. We see that, which was this little tidbit was really random for me. General Hale has a new outfit and hairdo. She's
Yeah,
not.
what was going on with that
Dude,
hair?
I had no idea. She wasn't in her military blues, and her hair was down and everything.
I
So
thought
I don't know what that was about.
I thought she had a Shih Tzu sitting on her head or something. It was very, very weird.
And she had a very weird looking belt clip,
Yeah.
or belt buckle, which reminded me a lot of Deke's belt buckle. Um,
Uh-huh.
Maybe we see that play out somewhere in the world, but that's just what it reminded me of. Um, we see Yo-Yo starts training with her new arms, with her robotic arms. She's using a punching bag, and of course, Mac is very concerned about her. He says, I'm your boyfriend, but I also mechanic too. He says, let me check on your arms as well.
Yeah.
Which is I thought it was a good sentiment. Is Mac being a little overprotective? Absolutely, but wouldn't you be if your the love of your life's arms just got chopped off in front of your face? You
Yeah,
know,
I think so.
that's just me. We see that Deke was very impressed with Fitz with the last episode with the dark Fitz and everything. He was very impressed. Was it last episode? Or was it 2 weeks ago? Hmm.
Dark Fits was last week,
Yeah. So he was
right?
uh last week was no, it was 2 weeks ago.
It was 2 weeks
Yeah.
ago, yeah, but we recorded the way we had
Yeah,
to.
that's what it was. We recorded back to back. Um so he was very impressed with Fitz, he said, because I didn't think you had it in him to do what needed to be done. Of course, we found out last week though that uh, Fitz does know about Deke, and just about everybody knows about them besides I think it's May and Coulson and Daisy are the only ones who don't know about them. I don't think Mac does either at this point. But um, it was very cool to see this interaction between them because last week, Fitz was very disgusted by Deke being his grandson. uh, and that Deke knows his grandparents, which I put this in the notes because I thought it was funny. Uh, Deke's grandparent, he calls his grandparents Nana and Bobo.
Right.
Obviously, Bobo being Fitz. That's going to come into play somewhere down the line, but that's so random.
Well, I love that scene though where they tell Yo-Yo.
Oh yeah,
Uh, because she kind of says, I forget, I want to say she said something like, "Oh, that's sweet" or something like that,
Yeah.
and Fitz goes, how was it he put it?
Oh no,
He
because Simmons they were
he
talking about Deke or something because it was Fitz, Simmons, and Yo-Yo, all three together, and she said something about Deke. Yo-Yo did, and Simmons like, actually, he's really not that bad. He could be pretty sweet.
Yeah, and but Fitz had something that he said that was basically like, "Yeah, I know, right?" or
Right?
something
Yeah.
like he's not fond of Deke.
Yeah. And that then they find out that Fitz and Simmons tell them that they're invincible too. They know they make it to the future, and they are now known as the Invincible Three. Uh, we'll get into it later. I got a bunch of stuff to say about that. Um, Daisy meets up with Robin. We found Robin was actually in a cabin. If you remember, Chris, that cabin was from several seasons ago with Quake.
Yeah,
Um, it's called, nice little callback to that. But we see Robin and her mother get onto the Zephyr. We find out that Robin has not been eating, drawing, or talking for a couple of weeks now. It's like she saw something she doesn't want to talk about and just kind of scared her. But I put a note in here. We have yet to see Yo-Yo use her powers since she lost her arms. That was corrected before the end of the episode, so that note is obsolete. Um, but we're back at the Hydra base. We see Carl Creel try to absorb the gravitonium, and we get a very, very, very nice callback to season one. Um, if you were like me, you're gonna have to do a little bit of research to the guy who was in the gravitonium. His name is Franklin Hall. He worked for Shield, and he didn't want Shield to have this technology. And Coulson essentially killed this guy by dropping him into the gravitonium. And so Creel has absorbed a little bit of gravitonium, but felt like to me he absorbed the memories more so than anything.
yeah,
So Creel is having like these attacks, and he's thinking of Coulson and everything. But Creel goes to Coulson, and they start talking, and then Creel and General Talbot are buddies. And he said, "Oh, you didn't know Talbot was sitting? It was here. Yeah, he's being broken and held hostage." And of course, that sets Creel off a little bit. So hold that thought. We're gonna get back to them, but first we're gonna flash on over to Simmons again. They want to free Fitz because they want to take down the weapon that has that Hydra will be very much looking over. It's like a gravitonium gun or gravity gun.
hmm
So we see Simmons, Yo-Yo, Mac, and Fitz all in front of little Fitz's holding cell. I don't want to call it like a jail cell, but she said she's trying to prove to Mac that all three of them are invincible and that this is why they need to make this happen. She has
right,
four glass containers, three of which are filled up with water, one of which is filled up with hydraulic fluid, which is also in they how they tied it to the episode was it has that fluid is inside of Yo-Yo's robotic arms, so it helps remove it real fast. So it's very deadly. A couple drops will make you sick for a couple of days, but this much that was in the cup will kill you. So she goes, "I'm proving to you that I'm invincible." So she turns her back. Yo-Yo switches the combination up real well, and so Simmons just starts drinking the water. The third one, she starts drinking. She acts like she gets sick from it and starts to die from it, and Fitz starts freaking out. And so Mac lets Fitz out, so because he knows where everything is. Fitz runs out the door. Yo-Yo puts Mac in the cell, and it was all a big ploy. And so that
yeah,
it was. Mm,
yeah. This actually made Simmons a douche canoe candidate
yes,
because
absolutely.
she didn't even let Fitz in on it.
Yeah, I mean, well, I get it because she was trying to sell it, and he's gonna have more of a normal reaction if she didn't tell him. But
Yeah, but
I'm with you
it's
one
like you
hundred
said,
percent.
a heads up would have been nice,
Yeah, that's what he said. But it was just a ploy to get Fitz out and Mac in. Um, you know, Yo-Yo portrayed Mac this episode, so you um, we we go back to the Zephyr. Robin starts drawing again and starts talking and things like that. Once she sees Agent May, and she starts calling her mommy again. Now, several episodes ago, she was calling Agent May her mother, or mom, or
Right.
mommy, when they were in the future. So
That killed. Oh, I'm
her
trying to
real
remember
mom,
her name now. Yeah, well, it's not really her real mom, right? It's she's assigned to watch her, basically.
yeah,
I didn't think that was her birth mom.
Lola Glenn, Polly Hinton's her name on the
Yeah,
show. Um, but yeah, you could tell it hurt her because she's been watching her this whole time. But
yeah,
we,
and
she obviously called her mommy because she's seen the future.
yeah,
So, and that's what scared her so much is, she started drawing pictures of Cassius and whatever the other blue girl's name was, the
S-
one that
uh,
Daisy killed. You know what I'm talking about? It starts with the S.
Sonora, was that
Sonora,
it?
there it is. Um,
Look at me,
Look at you, man, remembering all this stuff.
me and my old man brain.
So Robin's back. They found out where Coulson is uh, from this cool little technology they can use and scan the picture, which scans the world and puts places with names and stuff like that. It was pretty cool. Um, we so yeah, that was only one, Chris. It's my only one.
No, it wasn't.
It's the only one I'm counting for. Oh man, but let's go back to Hydra because the rest of everything is pretty much summed up. Well, to sum up Yo-Yo, Simmons, and Fitz, they are trying to take down these facilities because they are invincible. We're gonna hold that thought because I've got a discussion I want to talk about at the end here, and I just made some notes on the notes. So we're gonna go to the Hydra base. We've got Creel and Coulson. They break out Talbot. Talbot's obviously a little crazy. Oh, not right in the head. It was very funny. I love Adrian Pazdar. Period. He's in a lot of our shows we watch and love. Um, but they're trying to break out. Ruby and her goons of machines are trying to take over, or trying to capture them. Coulson actually dies this episode,
Yeah.
and he gets defibbed back to life from Carl because Carl absorbed, I'm assuming, like the metal and electricity out of the robot and
Uh-huh.
defibbed Coulson back to life.
I,
But the funniest quote from this one was from General Talbot. He says, you die more than anybody I have ever met." and,
yeah.
and Coulson said, "You know what? Thanks. I guess it's a good thing." Um, and then we see Ruby trying to kill Creel, but Creel actually absorbs some wood, and he is not dead. And that's pretty much how the episode ended because General Hale told Ruby to go find Coulson and Talbot and kill him. And then,
Yeah, and
go ahead.
real quick, I thought that was it for Colson. There was just something about it that I thought,
Yeah.
his the tissue around the heart is already coming apart,
Mm-hmm.
and he takes this blow right to the heart, and I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
this is going to be a shocker.
I don't like myself either, Chris. It's okay. You don't have to laugh at the joke.
It's fine, Tyler.
um, and then at the very end of this episode, we're giving a nice little flashback from 4 years ago, and we see the Gravitonium alive and is actually absorbing people and has a mind of its own. Um, I forget the actress's name or the character's name from season 1, 2, and 3. But I forget her name. Oh, I want to say
Yeah, I'm trying to.
it was named off a flower. I thought too.
Uh,
I forget. I tried looking her up again, but I couldn't remember it. Um, so we're getting a lot of callbacks to season 1, and that worries me because they're acting like this is the last season, and we already know that
mhm.
Jed Whedon and his other co-writer have already said the finale for this season could very well be the series finale, if you look at it that way. So that doesn't make me happy. But we're not going to talk about that. Only positive thoughts here when we talk about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. But my question is to you, Chris. I think we're going to have a problem here with this Invincible 3 trio here. I don't like it. They all three think they're invincible because they saw the future, but the future we already know that it's gonna be a time loop. I mean, they're gonna break the loop. It's just how
Right.
the show works. But that's gonna be a problem because they think they're invincible, and I feel like one of them are gonna die. And
Possibly.
I don't like it. I don't like it.
So here's my question: if either Gemma or Fitz dies,
Hmm.
will Deke just disappear?
I'm assuming that's how that works.
That's how it worked in Back to the Future.
Well, man, that's how it's going to work in normal
Just
time
saying.
traveling shows. um, Early numbers for this one: 0.5 rating, which is steady; 2.04 million viewers, which is up 0.18. That's a big jump.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as like viewership, to me, that's a big jump. And the next week is titled "The Honeymoon," which is very confusing because it's obviously
Uh,
meaning the honeymoon of Fitz and Simmons,
I would think so.
and their honeymoon is going to be trying to take down Hydra bases because they're all three invincible. So why not?
But it usually has a double meaning,
Yeah,
right? Most episode titles allude to two storylines.
yeah.
Um, and Robin does tell May in this episode that Coulson's going to die. Um,
Yeah, but aren't
she
we
said he
all gonna
dies.
die?
So what I'm wondering is, with his current condition, do he and May get married in a quickie ceremony and go on a
Mm,
honeymoon?
that'd be a good one though. I mean, because if you have to look at it from Jed Whedon's aspect, um, because like I said just a second ago, I feel like he's trying to build like a series finale. He's trying to wrap everything up, and that would make sense, you know.
Yeah.
So, I can see there. But Chris, we're getting close to the end of our show. But quite first, we gotta do our fan favorite segment, douche canoe of the week. Who held the honor?
This is easy. It's the Dirty Cops
That's
from
yeah,
Black Lightning.
Chief Kamen and whatever douche name.
Hey, he's douche canoe. He doesn't need a name.
Yeah, he don't need a name. He's just dirty cops.
So,
Now, Chris, who gets the honor of hero of the week?
we could have gone with a couple of people,
Hmm.
but went with Carl Creel.
I feel like he redeemed himself a lot this episode.
Yeah. Well, and I don't feel like he was doing what he thought he needed to do because
Yeah,
he thought he was going against the people that had hurt General Talbot. Um, but then when he found out the truth, he was all about trying to get him out of there.
yep.
And he even stayed behind so that Talbot and Coulson could get out of there.
Way to go, Carl, the absorbing man. Uh, now, Chris, what was your favorite episode?
I'm making history, Tyler.
Here we go. Make it.
Yep, I'm making it. We talked pre-show about how good all these episodes were, and I just couldn't pick one. So I had to go with S.H.I.E.L.D. and Gotham. It's a tie.
Mmm. A tie?
They were both so good. I couldn't just put one over the other. So
Oh, that is a hero cravings first.
it is.
Mmm. Uh, my favorite was Shield, but I'm with you. They were all great, and we talked pre-show as well. It's pretty unfair for Black Lightning to be included in this because even Krypton, to be honest with you, because Gotham and Shield are such powerhouses.
Yeah.
It's just hard to pick between them. But yeah, Shield. I just enjoyed it. I liked what they did with everything. Well, Chris, you got anything else for this week?
I don't believe so. I mean, we've got another full week ahead of us.
Yep.
So,
Another good Gotham week ahead of us too, from what I understand.
yeah. Yeah, it's going to be a good Gotham episode. Can't wait to see what Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. does off of this. And we're in the stretch for Black Lightning.
Yep.
So that'll be winding down soon.
Mm.
Well, we got 3 episodes left?
Two.
Two.
The week coming up, and the week after that is the finale.
So,
But
and
we'll be
we've
back
got
for season two.
we got 7 left on Krypton,
Yep.
and we're in the last 5 or so of each of our other shows. So
Yep. We're starting to hit our. We're on the downhill troughs now.
I think we
Downhill to
should tell
skiing.
people. I think we should tell people real quick that we have started talking about what we're going to be doing during the hiatus, um,
The off seasons.
especially especially for Multiverse, because with the Arrowverse show, we will keep it going through mid-June with recaps because of Supergirl.
Yep.
So we're coming up with some stuff to keep the multiverse episodes flowing as well.
For you, the listeners, all the ones we hold so dear to our hearts. But as soon as we have something concrete, we will relay that to you guys in the next couple of weeks of episodes. But that is it for this week. Make sure to review this, and share it around on all of your podcasting services. And don't forget to share around on your favorite social media platforms. You can follow me on, you can follow Nerdwide on Twitter at nerd_wide. You can follow me personally at Ty_Haynes. And you can follow Mr. Rivers at MavTN7. Wherever you come from, wherever you follow us from, let us know in the, tweet us, mention us. We'll start up some conversation and even potentially have your questions live on the air. But as always, I'm your host, Tyler Haynes, with my good friend and the man himself, Chris Rivers, and we cannot wait to share our thoughts with you next week.
Bye, everyone.